It'd be like watching Big Nasty set a world record for the 100 metres. It shouldn't happen, should it? Do you know when you see something familiar, it's somehow a little bit different at the same time? This is not the Toyota RAV4, although you may think it is. No, what this is the brand new Suzuki Across. Now, I don't think that this is a very bold act of plagiarism from Suzuki. No, the Across is the result of a collaboration between the two Japanese car giants. But is it a match made in heaven? Or is it a chalk and cheese scenario? Keep watching to find out, and be sure to subscribe if you're new here. Although the Across is designed to be economical, it's also pretty punchy as well when it comes to performance. That's because the motors and the engine combined offer 306 horsepower. That means this seemingly sensible, practical family SUV will crack 62 miles per hour in just 6 seconds. That's faster than some hot hatches. However, don't think that Suzuki has forgotten what a hybrid car should be all about, because on a combined run, Suzuki claims this car is good for, wait for this, 282 miles to the gallon. 282. Amazing. Better still, you can drive the Across in EV only mode for a range of up to 46 miles, which, in case you're wondering, is better compared to its rivals. Speaking of bettering its competitors, the BIK rating of the Across is lower, 6%, compared to most of its rivals, which sit around the 10% mark. As you would expect from a car like this, the CO2 emissions are very low. In fact, the Across emits just 22 grams per kilometre, which again is better than its rivals. So that's all the numbers out the way, but how does this car actually drive? Well, let's go and find out. Well, in all honesty, it is a mixed bag. On the one hand, this car feels quite refined, quite laid back, easy to live with. On the other hand, it feels nervous and restless. Now, this is an easy car to drive. It's near silent when you've got it in EV mode. Yes, there is a little bit of tyre noise, but nothing I'd complain about too much. And day to day, it is an easy and civilised car to get along with. That is good. The downside is the ride. Now, it isn't a complete disaster, but you will notice that it is quite firm, unsettled, and somewhat brittle. Oh. See, this is a good representation of what the ride is like. Okay, my groaning is exaggerated and not necessary, but the ride is disappointing. The fact this car comes standard with 19-inch alloys isn't exactly going to help matters, is it? And that's such a pity, because it does detract from what is otherwise a pleasurable driving experience. That is a shame. Speaking of the driving experience, the Suzuki Across gives you a few different ways in which to drive it. For starters, I've got 3 driving modes: normal, eco or sport, and you can also change how you want to use the car's powertrain. For example, you have an auto mode where the car will seamlessly go between electric and internal combustion engine, or you can drive the car EV only for up to 46 miles, or you can of course just use the engine power. There's also a charge mode, which is really handy. In this mode, the engine will not only power the wheels, but it will charge the battery at the same time. So let's say you haven't got the time to stop and charge the car, you can just let the engine do the hard work for you. Brilliant, I like that. Well done, Suzuki. The Across is a delightfully easy car to drive around town, and its amount of brawn may take you by surprise. In fact, if you fancy dabbling in a little traffic light Grand Prix, you could probably beat the majority of the stuff off the line. And that seems almost weird to have this level of performance in this kind of car. Doesn't feel right. It shouldn't be possible. It'd be like watching Big Nasty set a world record for the 100 metres. It shouldn't happen, should it? Now, does this car feel sporty because of its performance? No. Of course, this is a big, rather heavy SUV with a four-wheel drive system. So a sports car, this isn't. Although, let's be honest, it's not designed to be a sports car. As I touched upon earlier, the Across is a very easy car to drive. It really is. The controls are light, the visibility is good, the door mirrors are a very generous size, in fact, they're massive. The rear window is easy to see out of. Me being picky, I would like the rear window to be just a little bit deeper, but at no point have I had any difficulty seeing out the rear. And of course, this does have a reversing camera in case you need that extra bit of assistance. Just the way how this thing moves, just before you know it, you're at the speed limit. Very unusual. Yes, visibility out of the car is absolutely fine, as you would expect. The visibility over the shoulder is not fantastic because the C-pillars are thick, but you kind of have to expect that in a car like this. Refinement on the whole is also pretty good. So I'm about to go into a 40 mile per hour zone, so let's hit that speed and see what the tyre noise is like. So you may not pick it up on my clip-on microphone, but there is a bit of tyre noise coming into the cabin. But bearing in mind this car is wearing 19-inch alloys, I honestly thought the road noise would be higher, but it isn't. It's not silent, but I think it's pretty impressive. As you build up speed, there is of course wind noise because of the chunky wing mirrors, but that's no issue in my opinion. Of course, when the engine starts to get involved, it can be quite boomy. This does have a CVT gearbox, therefore you do have that rubber band effect whereby the revs rise and the engine becomes rather vocal before that power is translated to the wheels. Now, regular viewers will know I'm not a fan of CVT gearboxes. I'm yet to drive one that I actually like. I think that transmission I'm not a fan of it. That's the best thing I can say. However, as CVTs go, I've been driving this car for 7 days now, and at no point have I wanted to hit the thing with a hammer or swear until the air becomes blue. Yes, you do get the typical CVT foibles, let's say, but when you're just driving normally, it's well behaved actually. So this may be the best CVT gearbox I've used, and that's high praise. So well done, Suzuki/Toyota. The fact that you've got me to be content with a CVT gearbox, that's quite a feat, so don't underestimate that. Right, let's see how this thing performs in the corners. Granted, this isn't a sports car, so I'm not going to treat it as such. So let's see how it does. I have seen a few people criticise the handling of this car, and I actually think it's pretty good, bearing in mind the size and weight of this car. The grip is pretty good, although I'm getting a bit of understeer in these slightly wet conditions. The steering is more responsive than I was expecting, so that is of course good. I've now got the car in sport mode to give that extra bit of performance, so the steering weight has also become heavier. The feedback of the steering and the weight does feel rather artificial, and I would say it feels quite elastic. What I mean by that is the steering wheel seems a bit too eager to self-centre, but for the most part I haven't really got any real issues with the steering. The grip is competent. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's competent. This car does have four-wheel drive, just in case I haven't already mentioned that. The brakes perform well, although it would be nice to have an option to change the strength of the regenerative braking, but there isn't one. Well, not one I can find anyway. Of course, there is the inevitable body lean in the corners. You can't escape that. It's a high-riding, heavy SUV. However, I wouldn't say this is bad in the corners, actually. I wouldn't go so far to say it's fun, but it's enough to get by. What the Across lacks in fun, it makes up for with equipment. There's just one trim level available, but it should offer everything you want, providing you're not looking for navigation, wireless phone charging, or a panoramic roof. Standard features include LED lights, 19-inch alloys, rear privacy glass, keyless entry and start, heated front seats and outer rear seats, 8-way electronically adjustable driver's seat, heated steering wheel, and a 9-inch touchscreen offering DAB radio, Bluetooth and smartphone connectivity. That's not all though, as it also offers front and rear parking sensors, reversing camera and dual zone climate control. There's also a healthy amount of safety features including autonomous emergency braking, 6 airbags, adaptive cruise control, auto high beam, lane centering function, lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. Open up the hands-free tailgate, which isn't always the most seamless, so it is more luck than judgment. Nope. Oh, there we go. Open. You can use the button if you prefer, by the way. Once you do get the tailgate open, you'll be greeted by 490 litres, which is pretty decent. However, if you want even more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1,198 litres. The load area is wide, it's quite square, quite practical. The floor is low and there's no lip, so if you wanted to load bigger, heavier items or dogs, I reckon that'd be pretty easy. Also in the boot, you've got a 12-volt socket and a 150-watt socket as well. Also, quite surprisingly in this day and age, the Across comes fitted as standard with a spare wheel. Look at that. Look at that bad boy. That is a bit of an automotive unicorn. You don't really see spare wheels in new cars anymore, but it's there if you want or need it. Lovely stuff. Right. And now we wait for the boot to close. Talk amongst yourselves, put the kettle on. This may take a bit of time. Still going. And it's done. Anyway, time to move on to the rear. Step into the rear and you'll find there is a generous amount of space, even if you do happen to be blessed with height. Speaking of which, as always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller chap. Before I do step in, I've got a little bit of a picky complaint. I wish the rear door would just open a bit more. I do find sometimes when I'm getting out, it is a little bit, not tricky, but I feel a little bit restricted because you've got the wheel arch that protrudes into the entrance or the exit of the car. Anyway, that's aside, let me step in and talk about the more positive elements. Now, as you can hopefully see, because it is a little bit dark in here thanks to this dark roof lining, as you can hopefully see, I've got a very good amount of space, even though I am a tall person. I've got loads of knee room, plenty of leg room, and I can really stretch back and relax. Speaking of relaxing, these seats do recline, so again that aids with comfort. Headroom is also pretty ample, so I know you can't really see because I've got dark hair and it's dark roof lining, but if you just watch my hand, you can see it going from one to the other. Could you fit 3 adults in the back? Potentially, if they're quite slim, otherwise it may be a bit of a squeeze. If you're more concerned about carrying children, there are of course ISOFIX points, so that is good, although you would expect that from this type of vehicle being an SUV. In regard to practicality, the door bins aren't massive, but with a little bit of encouragement, you can squeeze in a 750 milliliter bottle, and you've also got 2 cup holders in the middle, which are in this centre armrest. Very nice. Again, you need to coax it in a bit. You've also got a hook where you can hang up an item of clothing. You've got one each side, of course. Map pockets, and you've got not 1 but 2 USB ports, so those in the rear can charge their smart devices whilst on the move. Lastly, you do also get vents in the back, so those in the rear can be treated with the heating or with the cooling, whichever is required at that time. So overall, I'm impressed with the back of the Across. Yes, like I say, it is a little bit dark in here because of the dark roof lining, and I think this car is screaming out for a panoramic roof, which isn't available. But on the plus side, the windows do let in a decent amount of space. So do I feel claustrophobic? No, but just would like a bit more of an airy feeling. Anyway, let's move on to the front. The front, just like the rear, is a comfortable and spacious place to be. Speaking of which, let me step in and park my bottom. Getting a comfortable ergonomic driving setup is easy because, as you would expect, the steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach. Also, as standard, the driver's seat is 8-way electronically adjustable. So yes, getting a comfortable setup is as easy as 1, 2, 3. The front seats are also heated for added comfort in these colder months in the UK, and the steering wheel is also heated, providing you can remember where the blurring button is. What about practicality though? Well, that is very good. Sorry, you probably can't see me, the lighting is awful, but the show must go on. The door bins aren't massive, but with a little bit of encouragement you can fit in the same bottle I used in the last clip. And there's a bit of space left over for a few smaller items. There's a really small cubby hole to the right of the steering wheel, which I suppose you could put in a packet of chewing gum, that kind of thing. There's a tray where you can put your smartphone, but sadly, as standard, well, you can't have it as an optional extra either. There's no wireless phone charging, which I do find disappointing, Suzuki. On the plus side, you do get a 12-volt socket and a USB port. There's also another 12-volt socket under here, where you've got the storage for the centre armrest, which is pretty good. You've also got a tray where you can pop your wallet. There we go, the lighting's a bit better now. You've also got a tray where you can pop your wallet or one or two smaller items. That's good space in there. You've got two cup holders in the middle, a sunglasses holder up here, and last but not least, you do have a glove box which offers a decent amount of space. So the front of the Across, just like the rear, is practical, spacious and comfortable. Once again, guys, it's time for Ask Aaron, the segment in which you guys get to ask me questions about whichever car I'm testing. This time it is, of course, all about the Suzuki Across. So I've got your questions here, so let's go through them. Can you find a Toyota badge anywhere? Well, technically speaking, yes, that's a Toyota badge. Yes, I know it doesn't say Toyota, but it is a badge taken from a Toyota, ergo, Toyota badge. What options can you get to change the appearance? You can change the colour. Is it available as a convertible? Yes, but only if you have an angled grinder. And the last question, what's it like to drive? Well, I refer you to the earlier part of this video. Anyway, that was short and sweet. That's Ask Aaron, done and dusted. Goodbye. As much as this car is easy to drive, the ergonomics of the cabin could be better. Now, this isn't really a Suzuki problem, this is a Toyota problem, because this cabin is virtually a Toyota cabin. Well, it is a Toyota cabin. It's got some weird quirks to it. For example, the button for the heated steering wheel is by your right knee, where you can't see it, and you wouldn't expect to find it there. You'd think that it would be near the heated seat controls. That would be logical, that would make sense, but no. Next to the front passenger seat heated control, I've got the button for the traction control, not the heated steering wheel. Just makes no sense. The button for the auto high beam has also down here by my right knee. Just a silly place to have it. It's almost as if they forgot to put it somewhere and panicked at the last minute. Also, and this may be a personal complaint, for me, I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'2", and I've got long arms. I find that to hit the left-hand buttons on the touchscreen, I have to lean forward a bit. That could be the way how I've got my driving position set up, but either way, I find that annoying. And the fact that there's a button for map, and this car doesn't have navigation, is just cheeky. Suzuki, this car costs over £45,000 and you can't give us sat-nav. What's going on there? That's just stingy. That is tight-fisted. As well as the interior ergonomics being a little bit iffy, the overall design of it isn't the most premium. I wouldn't say it feels like Poundland in here, but given the car's price, you'd want a bit more. Well, I certainly would, and I'd probably much rather sit in the inside of a Peugeot 3008. That'd be a more welcoming, stylish place to be. However, on the flip side, as much as this interior doesn't scream wow, it does scream build quality. Everything in here just feels well put together, robust and tough. You get a sense you could throw a swarm of children at this car and it would survive. Everything you touch, it just feels well made and well finished. One last gripe about the interior. Yes, you get this black roof lining, which is quite nice, but because you've got black leather everywhere, the inside feels quite dark and dingy. This car is screaming out, it's crying out for a panoramic roof, but sadly you can't have one. However, you can have one if you go for the top spec plug-in hybrid Toyota RAV4. So far I've complained about the ride and certain aspects of the interior, but that isn't the biggest problem with the Suzuki Across. No, its biggest problem is the price. Now, there's no easy way to say this, so I'll just come out with it. It is £45,599. I'm sorry, Suzuki, but that is a lot of money for a Suzuki SUV. I know it's got a plug-in hybrid system, it's got plenty of kit, but put it this way, you could get a Range Rover Evoque plug-in hybrid SUV for about £2 more. And for many, that would be a no-brainer. Okay, this is bound to be more reliable and it probably has more kit, but the choice between getting a Range Rover or a Suzuki, I'm sure many people would go for the former. Now, Suzuki has been a large support of Car Obsession, so I don't want to be too mean or to be too critical, but I am here to review their car. And yeah, Suzuki, this amount of money is just almost mad. Would I buy this car with my own money? No, I wouldn't. And yes, this isn't the kind of car I go for, but if I were on the market for a plug-in hybrid SUV, I just think this is too much money. To be fair to Suzuki, the Across is around £2,000 cheaper than its RAV4 equivalent. However, Toyota offer a 5-year warranty, whereas Suzuki offer 3 years. Time to conclude, and in all honesty, this is a difficult one. The Suzuki Across is not a bad car. It's got many good things going for it, but at the same time, there are a few bad things about it, and it's really difficult to get past that price tag. Over £45,500 for a Suzuki SUV. It seems almost unheard of. However, let's bring things back and just look at this car from a design brief perspective. This is where the car makes more sense, and this is also where you can deem it as a success. Compared to its rivals, it has the lowest BIK rating, the lowest CO2 emissions, it has the highest EV-only range, it's got impressive economy and a good amount of kit. So when you look at the car like that, this is a good car. It's just at the wrong price point. Suzuki though, I think they should be happy, because for a company that's made its first plug-in hybrid, I think this is a good attempt. Okay, so they may have borrowed Toyota's homework, but if you're going to be inspired by any manufacturer when it comes to motoring technology, I'm pretty sure you can do a lot worse than Toyota. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you have enjoyed it. If so, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.